What's your greatest victory in life? Ooh, big question to start. Plato says the first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. Know yourself and your values, and have the courage to stand by them. But I wonder if you, like me, have made a decision where you didn't conquer yourself, and it still weighs on you today. Our great victories are the result of hundreds of decisions we have made to lead us to that moment. I call these micro pivots, small steps towards or away from our goals. Micro pivots. They're in your past. They have shaped your present. And get excited, people, because they're in your future. First, my past. I grew up in a town on the New South Wales south coast called Nowra, a town that celebrates going for a whole week without a stabbing. Or does it? Yep, Nowra's got issues, and bullying in schools is one of them. I was lucky. I had a great group of friends. We couldn't protect each other, but we could provide a diversion, draw fire away. A girl in my year wasn't so lucky. She didn't have friends, and she was quiet and shy, and she got picked on by everyone. I'm sorry to tell you, but my micro pivot isn't something that I did. It's something I chose not to do. I chose not to help her. She needed a friend, and it wasn't me. Years later, I am still ashamed of that decision. I made an amoral decision. Not right or wrong, but indifferent to questions of morality. The impact of my amoral decision, however, was immoral for her. I thought I was remaining neutral, but the concept of neutrality is a myth. Why? You can't sit on the fence. The Experience of Regret, What, When and Why was published by the American Psychological Association in the 90s. Their research found people regret their actions more in the short term. But in the long term, it's the things we don't do we regret the most. So maybe at the time I would have regretted standing up for that girl, copping another bashing. I would prefer that to still feeling guilty years later. I've thought a lot about inaction and its impact, and I liken it to debt, bad debt. And like any debt, it builds up interest. And the longer you leave it, the bigger it gets and harder it is to pay down. Now, in science and technology, the theory is all things are good and bad all at once, depending on the situation, your perspective, and the application. Take nuclear science. The same fundamental principles that can create a bomb that kills 80,000 people in a single drop creates life-changing treatment for cancer patients. So if nothing can truly be neutral, shouldn't we use our powers for good and get off the fence? Years after leaving Nowra, I was in a workplace where a junior team member was being bullied by a senior. And this time I did what I wished I had done back in Nowra. I stood up and spoke. It was life-changing for me and my colleague. She started speaking up for herself because I had signalled to her it was okay. And I realised the power of a micro-pivot, a single decision that can reduce your debt of inaction and take you one step closer to victory. Do you know what your core values are? Until that moment, I hadn't really pinpointed what was important to me. And it's you guys, people, celebrating and defending everything that makes us unique and different. I realised I had to be brave and act. It wasn't easy at first. Speaking up doesn't come naturally, and I felt like an imposter. But like learning any new skill, the more I did it, the easier it got. And hey, sometimes I get it wrong and go too far, and I become a sap, a short, angry person. And that's not who I want to be either. I'm not conquering myself. But that's the great thing about learning, right? The more you do it, the more you realise there is to learn, and the more you realise you're never actually done. I now think of micro pivots as incremental adjustments towards a future I want, and every decision can have an impact, and not just on you, on the people around you, because when they see and hear you speaking up and standing up for your values, they feel lifted up and encouraged to do the same. So what decision from your past do you wish you could go back and change? And what have you learnt from it? What micro pivot will you make to change the future and conquer yourself.